5 mindset shifts to stop relationship anxiety. In this video, I'm going to tell you how to get your fears and insecurities under control in a relationship. It's Sabrina, your personal love advisor from A New Mode, the channel where we show you how love actually works. Okay, relationship anxiety is something that the majority of women deal with. It's just so hard to remain cool and calm when there's so much on the line. Relationships are fraught with anxiety in this day and age, and it's no surprise why. In these days when ghosting has become an acceptable form of breaking up, when there are endless apps, when a guy can just swipe and find someone shiny and new, a time that's defined as hookup culture when fewer and fewer people are settling down, there's just a lot to worry about. And it feels like if you're not on guard, you're just gonna get your heart smashed. While yes, it is tough out there, I'll grant you that, it's not so much the apps and the hookup culture that's messing people up and preventing them from getting the love they want. It is their self-generated fears and anxieties that they are projecting outward and essentially causing to bring to life. Dating is just no longer fun and enjoyable because it's so fraught with these fears that we bring upon ourselves. And it's really sad because you cheat yourself out of the best part of a relationship, which is the beginning. It's all so exciting and so fun, and there's just a magic to it. But most people miss out on it because they're just so worried. In this video, I'm gonna tell you exactly how to get those fears under control so that you stop driving yourself crazy and do actually find the love that you want. So make sure you watch this video until the end. Real quick, if you like this video and find it helpful, please give it a like. Make sure to subscribe to my channel, ring the bell so you get notified when I post new content. And one question that comes up over and over again for Eric and I, Eric is my co-founder of A New Mode. The question we get more than anything else is, does he like me? We get it so much that we decided to write a free mini ebook explaining it all, explaining exactly how to know how a guy feels if he likes you. It's called 7 Signs a Guy Likes You, and it's free, totally free. You can download it as soon as you're done with this video at signshelikes.you.com. And also make sure to follow me on Instagram at A New Mode. First, let's talk about a few quick signs that you have relationship anxiety. One is you don't trust your partner's feelings. You're afraid that at any moment the rug could just be pulled out from under you and he's just gonna lose interest. You don't trust that he can sustain a level of interest in you. Number 2, you overanalyze. You can't take anything at face value. You just have to pick it apart and examine every little speck under the microscope. Number 3, you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. You can't enjoy what you have because you're just waiting for it to end at any moment. So you just have to be on guard for that moment at all times. And number 4, you're always on edge. You can't just relax and enjoy things. You're just consumed with the worry, and it's debilitating almost. Now let's talk about how stressing and relationship anxiety ruin your love life. You don't need me to tell you that stress is bad for you. We hear it all the time. We hear about the toll it takes on our emotional well-being, on our physical appearance, on every aspect of our lives. But telling people not to stress is the equivalent of telling people that smoking causes lung cancer on a pack of cigarettes. That doesn't stop people from smoking the same way telling people stress is bad for you doesn't stop people from stressing over things. Stress puts us in a primitive state. It activates our fears and we can't see beyond them. Stress completely overwhelms our minds and we can't access the more rational parts of our brain. It's like a piece of paper with a black dot on it. When you're stressed, all you see is that black dot and it basically consumes the page, even though it's a tiny little speck on that page. Being stress-free is really about having a feeling of being okay. A feeling of I will be okay no matter what. This is where the majority of people go wrong. They can't just have that feeling of okay. They date defensively, always waiting for something to go wrong. When you stress over a relationship, you aren't able to be in the relationship. You're not interacting with the person in front of you. You're engaging with the worried thoughts in your head. That's who you're in the relationship with. That's who takes up most of your time. And you can't form a connection this way. A guy will pick up on this energy and something will just feel off. He'll just feel like a blockage between you and him that he can't break past. And he just most likely won't want to continue the relationship. Okay, so now that you've seen all the ways that stressing is ruining your love life, let's talk about the mindset shifts to fix it. Number 1, recognize that stressing solves nothing. We kind of covered this, but we're gonna go into it a little bit more here. This is a trap that a lot of people fall into, and it feels like you're being productive. It feels like you're running on the treadmill. I mean, yeah, you're not getting anywhere, but you're doing something that's beneficial for you. But stressing is not the treadmill because you're just expending all this energy and it's poisoning you. It has no benefit to your being whatsoever. It feels like if you spin your wheels hard enough, you'll land on some sort of solution. You'll reach this magical place of clarity where everything makes sense and you just understand and you could just go about your life. But you never get there. Instead, you poison your mood and your vibe and you ravage your self-esteem because it doesn't feel good to constantly be worrying about something and waiting for the worst case scenario to come to life. Stressing multiplies your problems. It doesn't solve them, and it just leaves you emotionally exhausted. Whenever you catch yourself stressing, just take a pause, pull yourself out of that whirlpool, and remind yourself this is not serving any positive purpose, and try to shift your focus and your attention onto something else. Number 2, set a panic deadline. A lot of women prematurely panic. And hello, I was the queen of that back when I was single and dating. I was all about the premature panic. I would obsess over a problem and try to solve it when there wasn't even a problem yet. And so many of us do this. So that is why when I was dating my husband, I came up with a strategy called setting a panic deadline. So the short version of this is that my husband and I, so for those of you who don't know, we dated in high school, we broke up, I was crushed, devastated, and for years and years and years, we weaved in and out of each other's lives. I always wanted him to ask me out again. He never did until like 10 years later, he finally did. So we went out on 2 dates and I was like, oh my gosh, over the moon. I was like, I need this to work out. I was super excited about, the possibilities and finally having him back in my life and all that. You can only imagine. Anyway, after our second date, I didn't hear from him the next day or the day after that. And I was in an absolute panic, in a tizzy, overanalyzing, just driving myself crazy. And then I was like, no, I'm not gonna do this. I think our date was on Monday, so I didn't hear from him Tuesday, I didn't hear from him Wednesday, and I was like, I'm not gonna worry about this right now, because I knew that I was the queen of prematurely panicking. So I set a panic deadline. My deadline was gonna be Friday. So I told myself, I am not gonna be upset about this right now. I will wait until Friday. If I don't hear from him by Friday, then that means that something is amiss, and then I'll allow myself to be upset, and then I can dwell about it, and then I can complain to my girlfriends about it. Until then, I'm gonna put it out of my mind. And that's what I did. And you know what? Later that night, I heard from him and everything was fine. So, it just shows how we create all this drama in our mind. But the panic deadline really works because it forces you to eliminate the stress, or at least to put the stress somewhere else and say, okay, I am gonna stress about this, but not today. I'm gonna stress about this at this point. And the panic deadline is something that I did a lot in the beginning of my relationship with him. Anytime, something like that would happen and I would start panicking, start stressing and worrying, I would say, okay, I'm not gonna worry about this now. This is the day that I'm gonna worry about this. And pretty much every time the problem resolved itself before I even got to the panic deadline. Eventually, I didn't have to set those deadlines anymore because I learned how to just be calm and relax and enjoy my relationship. Number 3, realize that if it doesn't work out, you'll be okay. This is the missing ingredient here. This is what no one tells themselves. Instead, we let our emotions run the show. And what are our emotions telling us? Our emotions are telling us we have to make it work with this guy. If it doesn't work out, we will be devastated beyond repair and life as we know it will be absolutely over. This is completely irrational. This makes no logical sense. You were fine before him and you'll be fine after him if it doesn't work out. It's hard to realize something so obvious when you're in the thick of it because it really feels like life or death. It really feels like you will combust if this person leaves. It really feels like him not being in your life would be the same as amputating a limb. He just feels so vital to your existence, but he's not. He's not. You will be fine. You'll be okay. Tell it to yourself as many times as you need to. Anytime you worry about him leaving or him losing interest, just say, okay, I hope it works out with this guy. That's my hope. That's how I want things to go. But if it doesn't, I will be okay. I will be fine. If one person doesn't feel the way that you want them to, then there's not much you can do about it. One person cannot have all the emotions to hold a relationship together. The other person also has to reciprocate those feelings. And if they don't, then there really isn't much you can do about it. So just let it go and know that you'll be fine. Number 4, imagine the other possibilities. The reason we stress out so much is because we invest so much in this one relationship working out. And we feel like, it'll be the end of life as we know it if it doesn't work out with this guy. Maybe it's because we really, really like him. Maybe it's because we have a hard time finding guys that we actually like. Maybe it's because there's so many scumbags out there and you've dated the majority of them. You've done the legwork. You know how hard it is to find a good guy. So you're so invested in making it work with this guy. Maybe it's because you are afraid of being single because you don't know when the next good guy will come along. Maybe it's because it just seems so meant to be. It seems so perfect. But you can't attach until you and him are on the same page. You cannot let yourself get overly invested in this one guy until you have something real that is shared between the two of you, not just one-sided. And until you get there, it's really important to mentally open yourself up to the other possibilities. So So I told you guys, I mean, in the beginning, very beginning of my relationship with my husband, I was a nervous wreck. You know, it felt like so much was on the line. Something I'd been wanting for 10 years had finally come my way. But in the beginning, I mean, yeah, it was very easy for me to get like swept up in the fantasy of it all, but I didn't let myself. Before he and I started dating, I was actually talking to 2 other guys, and they were both great. I mean, one of them, it was logistically, we just had a hard time working out our schedules and meeting up because he was traveling, I was traveling. Another one was like super cute guy. He lived in the South. So we're talking on the phone a lot and trying to find a time to meet up. And I didn't close the door on either of them until the door was closed, until, you know, my husband and I became official, which happened pretty early in our relationship. But until then, until it was clear to me that like we were exclusive and that we were headed in a very serious direction, I kept those other options open, and I allowed myself to entertain the possibility of maybe I'll end up with this guy, maybe I'll end up with this guy, maybe I'll just be single for a while longer, maybe I won't end up with any of these guys. And that's okay. I like being single. I really let myself imagine all the possibilities and imagine being okay no matter which way things went. Obviously, I had a clear preference of how I wanted things to turn out, and you know, fortunately it did work out that way, but I really let myself be okay with whichever direction things were gonna go in. And that's a really healthy place to be in. Number 5, realize that you have control over your mind. This is a common mistake. A lot of people think they have no control over their minds or their thoughts. And the fact is, those thoughts lead right to the emotions, and the emotions are so hard to see beyond them once your heart gets into the equation. You can control the thoughts that enter your mind. You can control what you engage with and what you don't. Those worried thoughts tend to spiral and become magnified and take over. You start worrying about one thing, then it leads to another thing, and it's just all consuming, and it doesn't feel good. You feel it physically throughout your body. You have a stomach ache. You feel like your chest is tightening. You feel short of breath. It's an awful, awful feeling. When those thoughts start creeping in, just pluck them out like a weed. Use that visual. It was very helpful for me. This happens no matter what stage of life you're in. It's not just in the relationship phase. There's always something to worry about. And when you start finding yourself in that cycle of solving problems that aren't even problems yet, and you're like thinking 5 steps ahead of how am I gonna deal if this happens or it goes this way, just say, okay, I'm not gonna solve problems until there are problems to solve. Or maybe you do have a problem that you need to solve. You need to just pluck it out and say, you know, obsessing over this is not gonna solve anything. And I'm just gonna focus my energy elsewhere. And do it as many times as you need to so that it becomes a habit. It just becomes your way of functioning and operating in the world. Your mind heavily influences the way you see the world and interact with it. If you don't believe me, let's do a little exercise. Close your eyes and pick a color. Spend a minute, you can do this exercise after because we don't need to do a full minute on this, but spend a minute thinking about that color, thinking about objects that are that color. Just picture that color. Think about what it looks like, how it feels, what emotions it makes you feel, and just think about it for a solid minute. Set a timer on your phone. Open your eyes. Unless you're in a solid white room, I guarantee the first thing you're gonna see is that color. And this is after only 1 minute of thinking about something. So when you're completely dwelling on something and thinking of the worst, all you're gonna see is the worst. Don't let your thoughts control you. Take control of them. I hope this was helpful. What did you think of this list? Do you think that this is doable? You think that you can start using some of these mindset shifts in your everyday life? Please tell me about it. Leave your thoughts in the comment section. For more relationship advice, check out enumo.com. Subscribe to our newsletter at enumo.com/subscribe. It is where we share our best content, personal stories, the works. And follow me on Instagram at enumode. And make sure to download our book, 7 Signs a Guy Likes You, totally free. You can get it right now at signshelikes.you.com. And I will see you in the next video.